October 31st, 2023 is now in session. This hearing is being conducted in accordance with the applicable provisions of the open meeting law, including the updated provisions enacted by the legislature last year. The new law allows the board to continue its practice of holding virtual hearings until March 2025. This hearing of the board is being held remotely via the Zoom webinar event platform. This hearing is also being live streamed. In order to ensure this hearing of the board is open to the public, members of the public may access this hearing through telephone and video conferencing. The information for connecting to this hearing is listed on today's hearing agenda, which is posted on the public notices page of the city's website, boston.gov. Members of the public will enter the virtual hearing as attendees, which will mean you will not see yourself on the screen and you will be muted throughout unless administratively unmuted when asked to comment. Board members, applicants, and their attorneys or representatives will participate in the hearing as panelists, and they will appear alongside the presentation materials when speaking. Panelists are strongly encouraged to keep video on while presenting to the board. As with our in-person meetings, comments in support will be followed by comments in opposition. The order of comments is as follows: elected officials, representatives of elected officials, and members of the public. The chair may limit the number of people called upon to offer comment and the time for commenting as time constraints require. For that reason, the board prefers to hear from members of the public who are most impacted by a project, that is, those individuals who live closest to the project. If you wish to comment on an appeal, please click the raise hand button along the bottom of your screen in the Zoom webinar platform. Click it again and your hand should go down. When the host sees your hand, you will receive a request to unmute yourself. Select yes and you should be able to talk. If you are connected to the hearing by telephone, please press *9 to raise and lower your hand. You must press *6 to unmute yourself after you receive the request from the host. Those called upon to comment will be asked to state their name and address first and then provide their comment. In the interest of time and to ensure that you have enough time to do so, please raise your hand as soon as Mr. Stembridge reads the address into the record. Do not raise your hand before the relevant address is called, or the meeting host will not know to call on you at the appropriate time. All right. Mr. Stembridge.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Present.
Good morning, Ms. Wewell.
Good morning, present.
Good morning, Mr. Valencia.
Good morning, Madam Chair, present.
Good morning, Ms. Panato.
Good morning, Madam Chair, present.
Good morning, Mr. Collins.
Good morning, Madam Chair, present.
Good morning, Mr. Aiken.
Good morning, Madam Chair, present.
Good morning. The floor is yours, Mr. Stembridge.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We will start off with the extensions at 9:30. The first two together are case BOA 1164405 with the address of 353 to 355B Hanover Street. Along with that, we have case BOA 1164409 with the address also of 353 to 355B Hanover Street. The extensions, excuse me. This is the first request for these extensions. So if the applicant and or their representative would explain to us why they're asking for the next one, for this one.
Thank you, and good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Attorney Ryan Gosden on behalf of the applicant, McDermott Quiltino Miller, 28 State Street, Suite 802. With me as well is Anthony Pisani, who is the project architect. We're seeking an extension for both this zoning code and building code relief that was approved in 2021 for the extension of the restaurant use to the second floor of Giacomo's in the north end. Unfortunately, after the relief was approved in 2021 during the pandemic, the restaurant experienced some delays in hiring and identifying a contractor to complete both filings and some sprinkler work on the second floor of the restaurant. However, as we're before you today, we're informed that everything has been filed with ISD and we're simply waiting on final approval of the plans and permit issuance, but we're coming up against the expiration of the relief in the first week of November, so we're simply seeking an extension to ensure that we have sufficient time to get everything finalized.
Any questions from the board? Hearing none, may I have a motion?
Motion to approve the extension until November 5th, 2024.
Second.
Thank you. Mr. Stembridge.
Yes.
Ms. Wewell.
Yes.
Mr. Valencia.
Yes.
Ms. Panato.
Yes.
Mr. Collins.
Yes.
Mr. Aiken?
Yes.
Chair also votes yes, motion carries.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Next, we have case BOA 1216057 with the address of 9 Joseph Street. The board originally granted this relief on November 2nd of 2021, and this relief remains valid until November 2nd, 2023. This is the applicant's first request for a one-year extension until November 2nd, 2024. Would the applicant and/or their representative explain the request to the full board?
Hi, my name is Matt Mueller from Hugh Architecture. Good morning, board and Madam Chair. The applicant has had some trouble finding financing due to inflation of cost and labor. So we're just asking for that extra year so he can get his finances in order to do this project.
Okay, and is that in the works or?
Yes, he's currently searching for alternative banks to help him finance the project.
Any questions from the board?
When do you hope to start construction?
We're hoping in the spring or summer of next year, if everything goes to plan.
Great. May I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the one-year extension to, I guess it's November 2nd, 2024.
May I have a second?
Second.
Second.
You, Mr. Stenbridge?
Yes.
Ms. Wewell?
Yes.
Mr. Valencia?
Yes.
Ms. Panado?
Yes.
Mr. Collins?
Yes.
Mr. Aiken?
Yes.
Chair also votes yes, motion carries. Good luck.
Thank you.
And the final extension request is case BOA 799147 with the address of 30 Thorn Street. The board originally granted this relief on November 6th of 2018. With tolling and previous extensions, this relief remains valid until November 6th of this year. This is the applicant's fourth request for a one-year extension until November 6th, 2024. Would the applicant and/or their representative explain to the board?
Yes, good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board, Attorney Nick Zazula, McDermott, Quilty, and Miller. Here on behalf of the property owner and developer 30 Thorn LLC, with me from 30 Thorn is Christopher Manatis Lornell. This is a 40-unit residential development, Madam Chair. It's an Article 80 small project review project in Hyde Park. As Mr. Secretary read into the record, this would be the fourth overall extension for the project. However, we were in front of the board in 2022 for a notice of project change and some project revisions. So this would be the second extension since the notice of project change. The reasoning for that was to make some changes to the project in order to make it more buildable. They're in the process, just like the previous applicant mentioned, of securing funding commitments, construction financing and the like, but it's there's some accompanying economic impacts, market inflation and all of that have caused some issues with construction costs, as we all know, and also with funding and, kind of undue certainty in the lending aspect and field for the approved project. So they are still looking to build a project, but, they're not able to do so right now. So we're looking for an additional extension to give them more time to secure that funding with the hope that they can proceed to construction next year with, the market and construction costs hopefully calming down a little bit and making this a more buildable project. So happy to answer any questions, but that's the request, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Any questions from the board?
Yes, can you talk a little bit about where you would stand in terms of filing for building permits?
Yes, the hope is, again, to file within the next year of this extension request. I know that, from late 2019 to now, the cost to build the project has jumped up like $4 million plus. So they're trying to make it work still. And my understanding is that they're still actively looking to obtain construction financing. And as soon as that happens, they're ready to build. It's a vacant lot and it's ready to go. So the hope would be that within this next year extension that they would be able to pull a building permit.
Thank you.
But has design review advanced or other elements of permitting, or that stuff is all on hold until there's financing?
So, yeah, I mean, where it's in slow talks, you know, to get design review completed. We've got the affordable agreement and the mitigation agreement in place with the BPA. Design review is not completed yet as a result of these issues, but you know, the team is committed to finishing that up to get to the building permit.
Thank you. May I have a motion?
I just would say we hope we don't see another extension, but I will make a request to extend until November 6, 2024.
May I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Stenbridge,
Yes.
Ms. Wewell,
Yes.
Mr. Valencia,
Yes.
Ms. Panado,
Yes.
Mr. Collins,
Yes.
Mr. Aiken.
Yes.
Chair also votes yes. Motion carries. Good luck.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Next, we'll move on to the Board of Final Officers hearing, scheduled for 9:30. First, we have case BOA 759563 with the address of 80 Marginal Street. Is the applicant and/or their representative present to explain to the board?
Yes, good Madam Chair.
Yes, we have
Madam
a,
Chair, I'm going to recuse myself from this. Thank you.
thank you. So just as a reminder, we now have a 6-member board.
Understood. Thank you, Madam Chair, and good morning to you, members of the board. Richard Lins, 245 Sumner Street, East Boston, on behalf of the petitioner, Copper Forge Partners. With me is Beth Whitaker from Merge Architects, who is the project architect. I think I provided the board with the slides just for reference, but we don't really have to get too far into it. I can walk through more of a technical presentation here. Just to inform the board by way of brief history, the board had granted extensive zoning relief for the project at 80 Marginal Street back in 2017. As part of that approval for a 9-unit multifamily residential building, there was included a parking garage located below grade. As part of the post-approval permitting, including Conservation Commission approval, the Conservation Commission determined that the parking program was not adequate and certainly not acceptable under the order of conditions they were willing to issue. As a result, we were required to do a redesign of the entire project. Between Merge Architects and the developer, we worked diligently with the Boston Planning and Development Agency to come up with a redesign of this building from what was originally approved in order to address not only the comments and concerns of the Conservation Commission, but also the redesign within the practical realities of the redesign that we could certainly work with. As a result, this project was reduced, Madam Chair, from 9 units to 7 units. Despite the extensive zoning relief that was granted, all of the changes that we've proposed do not result in any additional zoning relief that would be necessary. We vetted that with the plans examiner at ISD, had an extensive dialogue with ISD as well, and it was determined that no further zoning relief would be necessary for the changes that we made. In fact, we've actually reduced the violations for which we were granted relief for, and I'll summarize those briefly for the board because I think it's important for the record in approving this under board final arbiter. First of all, because this is in a 3F 2000 zoning district, we were cited for insufficient lot area for additional dwelling units. Since the number of dwelling units as permitted on the site would have been 3, for each unit over 3, we would be required to have at least 1,000 more square feet. Because we were reducing this from 9 units to 7 units, the impact of that relief was actually lessened. We're not required to have the full 9,000 square feet of the lot. We're only required to have 2,000 less based upon the 7 units. In addition, we were approved for a floor area ratio, a gross floor area of about a little over 12,000 square feet. The building, based upon our redesign, is within that approved gross floor area, and therefore no further relief under the floor area ratio was necessary. Likewise, with usable open space, there's a requirement in the 3F district that we would have to have at least 300 square feet per dwelling unit. Because we reduced the number of units again, that variance, the extent of that variance would also be reduced because we only require 600 less square feet than what was originally required. Last is required off-street parking. Again, the reduction from 9 to 7 units reduced the requirement for parking from 13 to 9 spaces. Even though we are proposing 7 spaces, we were originally granted relief for a lesser number of parking under Article 53. And the last area I just want to highlight, because I think it's important for the board's understanding of sort of where we ended up with this. With respect to the height of the building, this building was originally approved by the board at a height of 45 feet, 10 inches. Because of the adjustments to the building and the necessity to include the parking at grade rather than subgrade, the height of the building was actually increased a little over 4 feet. And that is significant because of one of the items that we did receive relief for. Since this project was approved, however, Article 25A, which deals with coastal flood resiliency overlay districts, was enacted by the Boston Zoning Commission and is part of the Boston Zoning Code now. Within Article 25A, Madam Chair, we are permitted to actually increase our height higher than what is the base flood elevation. So the height of the building overall increased to a total of 49 feet, 10 inches. However, we would be permitted under Article 25A to go even higher than that, provided that we comply with coastal flood resiliency guidelines. We did address all of that with the BPDA, including all of the design elements that we've incorporated into this latest design. And the BPDA has approved our design based upon the changes that we made, including the coastal flood resiliency overlay guidelines. So with all of that said, we are simply asking the board to essentially confirm the updated new plan, which is before the board, has been filed with ISD, has been reviewed by the plans examiner, as requiring no additional zoning relief, and as I said, has already received design review approval by the board, by the BPDA. Simply what we're asking for is the board to adopt this plan as board final arbiter as the updated plan per the approvals. And as I mentioned, this reduces the project from 9 to 7 units, maintains the exact same, or roughly exact same gross floor area, reduces the parking to 7 spaces, and increases the height slightly over 4 feet, consistent with coastal flood resiliency guidelines. I'm happy to pause and address any comments or questions to the board, but wanted to make sure that the board understood this is more of a technical request than it would be for any substantive relief that we would be looking for.
Great, thank you. Any questions from the board?
Yes, is this for rentals or home ownership?
This was originally intended for home ownership, and I believe that remains to be the program at this time.
And what will be the average price for the condos?
This is in Jeffrey's point. I'm not exactly certain of what the market is for that area. However, I do believe somewhere in the $600 per square foot range is probably the target price point. But again, based upon where we are with the market and interest rates, that certainly could change.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
I have a question. So, obviously the project had to change due to its location in the coastal zone, but what was behind the decision to maintain parking and put it at grade? I mean, to me, that just seems, an issue with runoff and any measures that are taken to sort of mitigate that.
Yeah, that great question. Couple of reasons why parking was maintained through the chair, as we will. When we went through the community process for this, we did have an extensive dialogue with the Jeffreys Point Neighborhood Association. Parking for this area was viewed as critical based upon the number of units we were proposing. We were able to still maintain parking at that lower level, and because we are seeking compliance, voluntary compliance with coastal flood resiliency, as well as our location or being located within a flood zone, we are limited to habitable space on the ground level, and therefore the highest and best use we felt for that level would be to maintain the parking, as well as other building amenities, and the ability to have those entranceways and lobbies, et cetera. But again, those are all intended to be designed consistent with coastal flood guidelines, even though that is not required unless it's an Article 80 size project.
Thank you. Any other questions from the board? Hearing none, may I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the changes to the project.
May I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Stenbridge,
Yes.
Ms. Wewell,
Yes.
Mr. Valencia,
Yes.
Ms. Panado,
Yes.
Mr. Collins.
Yes.
Chair also votes yes, motion carries. Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The next is case BOA 1415359 with the address of 457 to 469A West Broadway. Is the applicant and or their representative present to explain to the board?
Yes, members of the board, Madam Chair, Doug Stefanov Architects, business address of 423 West Broadway, South Boston. Thank you all for your time this morning. It's a fairly simple request. I have a project where we're now fitting out the commercial spaces in a 44-unit building, and I'd like to add a zoning Article 68 allowed use to the language of the decision. I'd like to add a beauty spa use to the listed uses for our new tenant for one of the spaces on the ground level.
Okay.
That's fairly.
Yep,
Short.
sounds good. Any questions from the board? All right, hearing none. May I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
May I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Stenbridge,
Yes.
Ms. Wewell,
Yes.
Mr. Valencia,
Yes.
Ms. Panado,
Yes.
Mr. Collins,
Yes.
Mr. Aiken.
Yes.
Chair also votes yes, motion carries. Good luck.
Thank you all very much.
Next, we move on to the building code relief for, not scheduled for 9:30 a.m. We have case BOA 1527248 with the address of 106 Marlborough Street. Is the applicant and or their representative present to explain?
Yes, Mr. Secretary. Doug Anderson.
Please proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. Doug Anderson with Commercial Construction Consulting LLC at 313 Congress Street in Seaport. And this is this building was converted into 7 condominiums back in the mid-1980s, and that is based solely on the assessing records. It goes back to 1986. There are no building permit records or plans for this conversion and construction. It was previously 10 units and went down to 7. For some reason, this one unit on the 3rd floor in the front of the building was only provided a single means of egress, which was the main stair in the building. All the other units have at least 2 means of egress by connecting balconies, typically on the alley side. So we considered a connecting balcony on the front over to 104, but as you know, this introduces a couple of additional complications. One is it would need Back Bay Architectural Commission approval, which would be extraordinarily doubtful. And secondly, it would also involve having to address the adjacent condominium at 104 Marlborough Street, which introduces other complexities and actually would probably lengthen the amount of time it would take to resolve this. So our proposal was to ask ISD for a compliance alternative, which is in the building code. ISD has the authority to approve it when we have construction difficulty, which we would have here. So our compliance alternative is as follows. Number one, all of the units have sprinklers in the kitchens, which was required back in the building code back when this was converted. And of course, the kitchen is the most likely place for a fire to start in a unit like this. All of the main stairway is also fully sprinklered. So, and we had the subject unit number 4 fully sprinklered, and we will be providing that unit with a system horn strobe so that we get an earlier warning than would otherwise be taking place. There is an error in my attachment, the travel distance. We had submitted at 135 feet where the code permits in a fully sprinklered building 125. We took a tape a couple of months ago with John Gorman. It's actually 87 feet from the front door of the unit down to the bottom of the stair where the vestibule, and it would be the entry door into the vestibule. So for a non-fully sprinkled building, that limit is 75 feet. So we're only 12 feet over, which is what, 3 or 4 or 5 strides, depending on how long the stride is. It's all downstairs. There's no horizontal travel except between the flights. So this is what our request is. The building does have a full fire alarm system, and the unit strobe has not yet been installed. There was a communication mix-up with the fire alarm company. They're now looking at putting that in at some point. But this has been an existing condition for almost 40 years, and we're trying to rectify it.
Do you have a balcony or any other deck type situation?
For this particular unit, we would have to have a balcony over to 104. And in the front of the building, of course, in the back bay, the BBAC has jurisdiction over both the front, the Main Street side and the alley side. There was a case a number of years ago I worked on when I was a plans examiner where I had to approve a fire escape in the rear of the building, even though BBAC denied it. But in this case, we meet the travel distance limits. We're just 1 story too high in accordance with the code.
So you don't have, my question was, do you have one? So you don't have one?
No, not for this unit. We do not, Madam Chair.
Okay. Other questions from the board?
Madam Chair, I do have a question. I think I just don't understand. How has this come up now? Is there work ongoing? Why has this become an issue when you say this conversion was done quite a while ago? I'm just trying to link the two together.
That's a good question, Mr. Aiken. It turns out that the current tenant questioned the landlord, questioned the owner of a condo about only having 1 exit. And the owners went to John Gorman, and John called me. And I looked at it and said, yeah, you have a problem. We got to fix it.
Explaining that.
Most folks don't understand means of egress. So apparently this person had a funny feeling about it. It turned out to be a correct one.
So is this something that the fire department usually needs to weigh in on? Because obviously they would require a second, or would want a second egress, means of egress.
Good question, Madam Chair. This is a building code requirement that we're dealing with, a building code variance, and the fire department would only be involved with fire protection systems such as approval of the sprinkler or the fire alarm. They don't address means of egress or maintenance of means of egress in non-assembly, in places that are not places of assembly, such as this. So they wouldn't weigh in.
Okay. And I do want folks, members, to be aware, in case you have not seen it, that the NAB, Neighborhood Associated of Back Bay, did submit an email in opposition to this request. Have folks seen that, just so that you're aware? Any other questions from the board?
I have more of a clarifying question, Madam Chair. So it sounds like, the issue here is lack of second means of egress, and the sort of remedy is to either pursue a balcony through the BBAC, if that's the right acronym, or to seek building code relief. Is that correct?
That's correct. And truth be told, we found, actually Mark Joseph found some plans from 1963 that actually showed that balcony in the front. We suspect it was removed during the 1980s renovation when both 104 and 106 were condo converted, but we don't have any records. There's no long form or plans or anything for this work.
And this unit is currently being rented to a tenant?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions from the board? Okay, hearing none. Does someone want to put forth a motion?
Madam Chair, you can ask for public testimony if you want. I don't know if the group that sent that email is on, but you can ask for public testimony.
Yeah, Jessica, is there anyone who wants to speak?
I don't see any raised hands at the moment, but it's any elected official. Okay. Well, okay, there was a hand that popped up. Do we want to go right to it, Martin?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Martin Red. I'm chair of the Neighborhood Association of the Back Bay, and therefore, I guess you could hold me responsible for this letter that was sent in, which we only received notice of this issue very, very recently. And in thinking about it, you know, we object very strongly to the idea of having only a single egress. And I think we recognize the difficulties that are encountered, but it seems to me that allowing this to continue would send a very dangerous signal to other people who may be in similar situations. I have no way of knowing that. And the fact that the fire department has not been involved, you know, simply because this is a building code issue rather than one that is a fire code, I guess, is to me quite shocking. I mean, it seems to me that the fire department should be consulted and express their opinion about whether they regard this as a good idea, because when there is a fire, they will of course be the ones who are called upon to respond. So those are the additional, you know, comments I have to make, and thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you.
So can the gentleman who just testified tell us what the solution he would recommend?
Yes, we did add additional fire protection
I
features.
think Ms. Panato was asking the speaker.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Mr. Martin from NAB, would you like to comment?
Other than a building code variance, is there a solution?
Yeah.
Are you asking me, the appellant?
You're unmuted, Martin.
No, I was asking the gentleman who's from the Neighborhood Association.
You know, I'm certainly not familiar with the plans and of this building, and I've asked my colleagues in NAB if they have access to the plans, and so, you know, we're really not in a position to say what an alternative solution might be. I've heard the comments about the possibility of a balcony, and it seems to me that should be explored further, given the seriousness of, at this stage of the game, this stage of our understanding of building codes and safety, only having one egress.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, may I reply?
Yes.
The building code, under certain conditions, does allow a single exit from a building. When A, the building is fully sprinklered, and B, you're no higher than the third floor, and C, when there's no more than 4 units per floor. You could build brand new buildings like that today with a single exit. We are as close to meeting those conditions as is feasible in this 1880s townhouse. We are 1 floor higher than we're allowed to be under the code for new construction. Our travel distance for a fully sprinkled building is 87 feet. The code allows 125. So we're well below that threshold. That said, the building is, quote, not fully sprinklered. The unit is fully sprinklered. All the common areas are fully sprinklered, and the kitchens in the remaining units are equipped with a sprinkler system. So we've done as much as we can from a life safety perspective to mitigate this. And we have grounds under the base, you know, code for new construction to ask for the variance. I would not be in front of this board if I felt there was any life safety hazard to these occupants at all, given the improvements that have been made.
Javier?
Madam Chair, this is Javier. So if the board does not feel confident in the ability to determine this outcome, the applicant can go seek relief from the Board of Building Regulations and Standards or building code relief. That board has more specialized knowledge on building code. If this board decides that, I would recommend to do a dismissal without prejudice so this applicant can refile and come back before the board within the 1 year.
Give them an opportunity to go to that alternative board that you just referenced.
Yes.
Okay?
Yeah, I'd make a motion to dismiss without prejudice.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Stenbridge?
Yes.
Ms. Wewell?
Yes.
Mr. Valencia?
Yes.
Ms. Panado?
Yes.
Mr. Collins?
Yes.
Mr. Aiken?
Yes, and I'd just like to add that I think that if for some reason it does come back to us, for any reason, that we would want to hear if the alternative with a balcony out front with 104 has been further explored.
Chair also votes yes, motion carries.
Madam Chair, I have a question for Javier for
Yep.
future hearings. Javier, is there any difference between dismiss without prejudice and denial without prejudice?
Yes, I'm sorry, did you ask for the difference between those two?
Yes, is there any difference or is the same just for future
Well,
cases?
if it's a straight denial, it'll be the applicant cannot come until 1 year after the decision.
Javier, the question, because you're using dismiss and denial interchangeably, and we commonly say denial, so we just want to be clear. Good question.
I apologize. No, dismissal and denial, I mean the same thing with denial without prejudice. I apologize, I misspoke.
All right, so don't confuse us further. Let's stick with denial. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Valencia. All right, I think we're on to the 930s.
Moving on with 9:30 hearings. First, we have case BOA.
Withdrawals and deferrals. Withdrawals and deferrals.
Forgive me, folks. I will ask if there are any requests for withdrawals or deferrals from this time frame.
I see you raised hand, excuse me, Kyle, you looking at defer a case, or do you need to be elevated to a panelist? Okay, I don't have any additional raised hands.
Then we'll go back to case BOA 133-5853 with the address of 46 Parsons Street. Is the applicant and or their representative present to explain?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Secretary. Madam Chair, members of the board, Attorney Ryan Spitz with Adams and Moranci, business address of 168 H Street, first floor, South Boston. Joining me today is the owner, Brian McKay, as well as the architect, David Freed. This is a proposal to change the occupancy from a two-family dwelling to a three-family dwelling by way of renovating the existing interiors and expanding the livable space by way of a vertical addition of a dormer on both the left and the right-hand side. The dormer will be approximately 3 feet above the ridge and 46 feet long. The footprint of the building will not be altered at this point. We're in a 2F5000 sub-district, which creates a use violation as we are proposing 3 units in an area of Brighton that has many other multifamily dwellings. The 3 units will range from 941 square feet to 1,291 square feet. Unit 1, located on the first floor, will consist of a 2-bed. Unit 2, located on the second floor, will consist of another 2-bed. And Unit 3, on the third floor, will consist of a 3-bedroom. We have the following additional violations. We have a FAR violation. Proposal calls for a slight increase in the FAR at a 0.62. A 0.6 is what it's only compliant here. Building height, we are below the height requirements in feet, but have a story violation as we are proposing 3 stories and 2.5 stories is what is compliant. Lastly, we have pre-existing violations for both the side yard and the front yard, even though the footprint of the building is remaining the same. At this point, I'm going to pause for any questions, comments, or concerns from the board.
Thank you, that would be helpful. Can you clarify the case notes that you're converting to 2-family to 5 dwelling units? And there are a number of abutter letters that were also addressing this as a conversion from 2 to 5, but now you're talking about 2 to 3.
Correct, yes, Madam Chair. So we do have an updated refusal. The change of plans were based upon the community feedback. The original proposal called for 5 units. We substantially reduced that down to 3 units, not altering the footprint of the building and just using the dormers on the left and right-hand side. We did complete the community process as well as having those plans presented to the community as well as to the civic group, and it seemed to be well perceived at that point in time. We did hear major concerns, again, surrounding the 5 units, and that's why we revised those plans. And again, we do have the updated refusal that was in our possession, and that was advertised, from what I was told, correctly and properly.
Okay. Other questions from the board? Okay, hearing none, I'm going to ask for public testimony, please.
Yes, good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Frank Mendoza here with Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services. 46 Parsons did have 2 abutters meeting. At the second meeting, which was advertised for 3 rather than 5 units, there were no attendees. Our office did not receive any letters of support or opposition. And the Brighton-Austin Improvement Association zoning chair, Annabella Gomes, is also present to testify as to the stance that the Civic Association took. The applicant did present to the Civic Association. At this time, we'd like to defer to the judgment of this board. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. This is Maura McCrave from Councilor Braden's office. The council would like to go on record in support of this project. She would like to request that the board consider provisions for a review of the review of the parking and for a reduction in parking, and require, consider that the board require a provision for the use of permeable pavers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Board, from the Brighton-Austin Improvement Association, we'd like to go on record in support of the project. Thank you.
Thank you. 56 Parsons Street, looking to give testimony here? I'm gonna lower your hand. I have no additional raised hands at the moment.
Okay, great, thank you. Any additional questions from the board?
Yes, I'd like to hear from the proponent in response to the comments, I think, was it from Councilor Breeden's office about reduction in parking and permeable pavers. You talk about the parking count for 3 units?
Yes, so we do have 6 parking spaces in the rear. As you can see from the drawings, there is an existing garage that will be containing 2 parking spaces. And then along the exterior of the premises on the side, on the rear yard, there are provided 4 more parking spaces. I don't think we could actually commit to removing any of those spaces because we are compliant with this proposal as far as the parking. And if parking spaces were removed at this point in time, it would create an additional zoning violation and would have to take us back through the process. The feedback through the community, they were appreciative of having parking and being parking compliant as well. And as the permeable pavers, I definitely think that is something that can be reviewed. And I'm sure if this, if this is approved, there will be a BPDA design review process that can be structured as far as permeable pavers to help with the drainage.
Thank you. All right, well, Jessica, do you want to go back to 56 Parsons, who
Sure,
seems
yep.
to still have a raised hand?
Okay, go ahead. 56 Parsons and Benjamin.
56 Parsons is Michael. Sorry, I'll tell you that I was going to voice opposition to this because originally I got it in the mail. It came and it was conversion of 2 to 5 units. However, from 2 to 3 units, the neighbors are in support.
Thank you.
Benjamin?
Thank you. I just wanted to reiterate what Michael said. I came on this call expecting to speak in opposition, and I am very happy that this is the direction that the owner is taking as my neighbor. Thank you.
Can you just state your address as well, sir? Sorry.
48 Parsons Street, direct abutter.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, with that, may we have a motion?
A motion to approve the BPDA design review.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Stenbridge?
Yes.
Ms. Wewell?
Yes.
Mr. Valencia?
Yes.
Ms. Panado?
Yes.
Mr. Collins?
Yes.
Mr. Aiken?
Yes.
Chair also votes yes, motion carries. Good luck.
Great, thank you.
Next, we have case BOA 1487447 with the address of 77 to 79 Litchfield Street. Is the applicant and or their representative present to explain?
Yes, I'm here.
Please proceed.
I believe the homeowner is on as well.
Yes, I am.
Hi, Rick Ames, Next Phase Studios Architects, 311 Washington Street, Brookline. And speaking for Nicholas and Nancy are here. I guess they will speak up. This is very similar in some ways to the project that you just heard. This is an existing two-family that is being proposed to add. There are dormers on it, but we're looking to increase the size of the dormers, and we're looking to add additional living space in the lower level in the basement. It is going to be owner occupied. They've owned the building for 10, 15 years. They would like to, they have traditionally had, it is a very traditional sort of two bedroom, 5-bedroom, two-family, and they'd like to stop renting out the 5-bedroom because it seems to be a problematic rental that turns over fast and has students. And they would love to have it be something that's a little more stable. So they would like to extend the egress. It has 2 means of egress now, but they would like to sort of convert it, add a kitchen, and convert it into a full apartment on the top floor. But if so if you drop down, if I could ask you to drop down, they are adding living space in the basement. So this is the, and they're adding this 2-bedroom unit up on the 3rd floor by doing the big dormer here and the big dormer here. They're gonna gut the place and try to make it very energy efficient and convert it to all electric. The actual, we're not changing window openings per se. We're going to put in high performance windows and reclad the building. Most of our violations are from the existing non-conforming, the way it was cited on the site. It's very, if you go to the first page, you can see it sits on the lot, very similar to how everything else in the neighborhood does. And so we need, that's the building envelope that's allowed by zoning. So anything we do needs relief, and we need relief for parking, side yard, non-conforming, and FAR, of which we're very consistent with the neighborhood in what we're retaining. We're providing 3 tandem spots, and I think really the intention is to convert this into something that they feel that they can manage and maintain long-term.
Any questions from the board? Hearing none, can we have public testimony?
Yes, good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Frank Mendoza here, Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services. For 77 Litchfield Street, we did host an abutters meeting. No abutters were in attendance. The Austin Civic Association did vote in support. I don't believe the Brighton Austin Civic Association has voted on this project. Our office has not received any other letters of support or opposition. The board should have a letter from the ACA on file as of this morning. With that said, we'd like to defer to the judgment of the board at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Tony?
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Tony Disadoro representing the Austin Civic Association. We would like to go on record in support. Whenever we have an opportunity to encourage and retain owner occupancy housing in our community, we certainly are very much in favor of that. So we'd like to go on record in support.
Thank you.
No additional raised hands at the moment, Madam Chair.
I think Liz Braden's office.
Sorry, good morning. This is Maura McCrae from Councilor Braden's office. Councilor would like to defer to the board on this project, but she did want to raise a concern about the inclusion of living space in the basement. We've seen, just due to the ongoing climate crisis, we've seen increased precipitation and issues with stormwater flooding, particularly in this area. Just anecdotally, over the summer, we've had a number of issues with constituents reaching out to us about flooding significant flooding in their basement units and difficulties with exiting their units when flooding has occurred. So we just want to make sure that this unit will be safe for any future potential tenants. Thank you.
Mr. Ames, do you want to address that before we make a motion?
We are aware of that. Resiliency is very much a consideration of the homeowners. This will be a unit that's integral with their first floor unit and have both egress windows and 2 means of egress out of that floor. And I think we are well aware of the climate implications. We are putting in, a full perimeter drain and sort of being thoughtful of materials and what we are putting down there so that it is more resilient should ever there be a major event or impact to it.
Thank you. May I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
May I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Stenbridge?
Yes.
Ms. Wewell?
Yes.
Mr. Valencia?
Yes.
Ms. Panado?
Yes.
Mr. Collins?
Yes.
Mr. Aiken?
Yes.
Chair also votes yes, motion carries. Good luck.
Thank you for your time.
Next, we have case BOA 1513801 with the address of 39 to 41 Murdoch Street. Is the applicant and/or their representative present to explain to the board?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, sir.
Okay, thank you. My name is, first, good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. My name is Patrick O'Brien. I am the owner of 41 Murdoch Street, Brighton. This is a family-owned property. It's been in my family for 50 years now. I grew up at the site. The intentions of this variance or request for a variance is to convert an existing 2-family house into a 3-family house. The first floor unit is a 3-bedroom apartment. The second floor unit which takes up the entire second and third floor, is a 6-bedroom unit. And there's been great difficulty in honestly renting a unit of that size. We propose no additions in living space or no dormers. There's no need to. It's a very big house. What I propose to do is to have an individual unit on each floor of the property. Each unit will have 2 means of egress. It's my understanding we're going to have a sprinkler system as well. Regarding the violations, it's a 2-family zoned area, F5000, excuse me. And our only violation is the use is 3-family denied.
Thank you. Questions from the board? Hearing none, can I have public testimony?
Yes, good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Frank Mendoza here, Austin Brighton Liaison, Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services. The project at 3941 Murdoch Street. The abutters meeting, we had one abutter who lived at 44 Murdoch who was concerned about density and parking, and another who was concerned about student versus family tenants. The applicant did present to the Brighton Austin Improvement Association. The zoning chair, Annabella Gomes, is on to testify as to the stance that they took. Our office also received 4 letters of support for the project. 1 from 81 Mapleton, 1 from 85 Mapleton, 1 from 8 Dustin, and 1 from the abutter at 45 Murdoch. With that said, at this time, we'd like to defer to the judgment of the board. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you have no additional raised hands?
Okay. Madam Chair, Annabelle Gomes from the Brighton Austin Improvement Association would like to go on record in support. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, may I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
May I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Stenbridge?
Yes.
Ms. Wewell?
Yes.
Mr. Valencia?
Yes.
Ms. Panado?
Yes.
Mr. Collins?
Yes.
Mr. Aiken?
Yes.
Chair also votes yes, motion carries. Good luck, sir.
Thank you. Good day.
Next, we have case BOA 1525307 with the address of 1256 to 1262 River Street. Is the applicant and/or their representative present to explain to the board?
Yes, I am, Mr. Stenbridge. Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board, Attorney Derek Small. I have a business address of 51 Dobson Road in Braintree. We're here today seeking relief to remove the proviso that the board placed on this function hall. You know, for the last year, the function hall has been operating very smoothly, hosting a number of events, such as wedding receptions, kids' parties, and most recently, a breast cancer awareness fundraiser. And so we are seeking to remove the proviso that the board placed on the function hall to continue operations.
Thank you. Questions from the board? Hearing none, may I have public testimony?
Yes, Madam Chair, members of the board, Connor Newman with the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services. At this time, the Mayor's Office would like to defer to the judgment of this board. I don't have a lot of information on this proposal due to personnel changes, but unaware of any immediate concerns at this time.
Thank you. Any other raised hands, Jessica?
Yes, about that. Caller 617364 sent a request to unmute you. Looking to give testimony here, so can you, oh, there you go, yep. You looking to give testimony for this case?
Yes, good morning, Madam Chair. Name's Craig Martin, Colchester Street, Hyde Park. Don't have much of a comment, but a question. I know that there was a proviso was placed under a different applicant's name, and was to remain under that applicant's name, but I see today that we now have a different applicant, and I'm confused as to what the situation was. That proviso was placed there for a certain applicant, but it's a different person today.
So you're not in favor, or you're not here to speak in favor or opposition?
I'm not in favor or opposition. I have a question.
Okay, thank you.
The question,
Mr. Small, do you have a response just to that quick question?
Sure. The original application filed last year for the function hall was in the name of the owners, but it's still the owners, and the owners are on the call today. But when I applied, that's why it comes up as Derek Small being the applicant.
Thank you. Any other questions from the board? Hearing none, may I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
May I have a second? Thank you. Mr. Stenbridge?
Yes.
Ms. Wewell?
Yes.
Mr. Valencia?
Yes.
Ms. Panado?
Yes.
Mr. Collins?
Yes.
Mr. Aiken?
Yes.
Chair also votes yes. Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Small.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. Have a good day.
Next, we have case BOA 1424656 with the address of 1471 Blue Hill Avenue. Is the applicant and/or their representative present to explain the request to the board?
Yes, good morning, Mr. Secretary, Madam Chair, members of the board, Attorney Nick Zazula, McDermott, Quilty, and Miller. With me today is Scott Shaw, who's from the Lincoln Avenue Capital, New England, who's a project developer, as well as Dan Riccardelli, who is our architect from Arrow Street. Excited to be here today to present this all-affordable rental unit project with 41 units under Article 80 Small Project Review. You'll see in our presentation that it really is truly development without displacement on this parcel because it is vacant. Next slide, Ms. Ambassador, thank you. This is our site. You can see it here in yellow. It's kind of a uniquely shaped Tetris piece of a lot of vacant land at the corner of Blue Hill Ave and Culbert Street. You can also see the MBTA commuter rail Blue Hill Ave station located directly around the corner from us within very short walking distance, as well as the bus lines along Blue Hill Ave and other landmarks in the neighborhood as well, indexed on the right-hand side. Next slide, Madam Ambassador. On this slide, again, existing conditions as well. You can see the site here a little closer. This is an approximately 26,500 square foot property of overgrown vacant land that includes two billboards on the lower right-hand side of the parcel along Blue Hill Ave within a fenced-in lot. The site is burdened by a steep grade change. It's approximately 13 feet to 22 feet, depending on where you are at various points of the property. So it's very constrained and topographically challenged, as well as this unique shape again, which you can see here. There are a lot of trees on the lot currently. Many of them are invasive and can use some upgrading and updating. We've worked hard on the plan to maintain as many as we can, as well as to plant as many new ones as we can, which you'll see in our presentation. Next slide, please. Again, some more additional existing conditions, so you can see the grade change of the site, Culbert Street and the existing conditions there. There's also on the lower right picture a photo of a city-owned kind of small portion of land that's currently used for illegal parking and kind of jumbled parking with a curb cut there at the bottom right. As part of this Article 80 process for the small project review, the plan is to make off-site improvements to this small little about 1,350 square foot parcel of city-owned land at the corner of the site, curb extension improvements, street trees, and visitor bike parking, which you'll see in our presentation. Next slide. This is just a slide to show that we are aware we're within Plan Mattapan. We've worked hard on the project building, site, and landscaping to be designed to align and complement that plan, as well as the Blue Hill Avenue Transportation Action Plan. The project is all affordable housing. It's looking to help support local businesses, enhance connections along the street and to the parcel, and provide spaces where people gather, which again, you'll see in our presentation. Next slide, please. We did meet with the community. There was a lot of input and comments to this project. So during that process, we did make changes to the project as a result of the input received. As a result of those changes, we only need minimal zoning relief, which you'll see on our next slide, but the overall project size and number of units were reduced. The building was pulled back to a zoning compliant 20-foot rear yard setback along Culbert Street, and an off-street loading zone was added as well to provide for folks to, for off-street loading and not, jamming up Culbert Street for any deliveries or move in, move out. The unit mix was modified to create more family-friendly 3-bedroom units. We also added residential and bike room entries that, were relocated, which you'll see, to Blue Hill Ave and off Culbert Street. We heard a lot of comments about trying to keep a lot of the foot traffic and as much traffic off Culbert Street, so we did our best to do that and to better activate a proposed pocket park, which is along Blue Hill Ave. Next slide. This is, again, just to provide some of our project details and metrics. We can go back to the slide, Madam Chair, if there are questions, but the project is 47,400 square feet of gross floor area. That was reduced by about 2,500 square feet during the process. We do have a zoning compliant floor area ratio of 1.77. You can see on the right-hand side. We do have a zoning compliant building height. We also are compliant with all of our yard setbacks, which is difficult in such a uniquely shaped lot. We are also proposing robust open space, 280 square feet per dwelling unit, which is more than 5 times the requirement in the community commercial subdistrict. And that's a mix of the wooded area that we're going to maintain, a pocket park, amenity space, and a rooftop garden as well. The project proposes 41 all-affordable rental units. You can see the unit mix here. There are no studios. That was changed as a result of the public process, and we did add more three-bedroom units. So as a result, the bedroom mix has a 73% ratio of 2- and 3-bedroom units and a range of affordability from 30 to 60% AMI. The final thing I'll note here is we are proposing 12 on-site parking spaces. 2 of those parking spaces will be building-only shared vehicles. So basically a zip car that's managed by the building, but only for the building, not for the public. That was instituted to help mitigate some of the parking concerns that we heard. although this is an all affordable project and no off-street parking is required under the more recent text amendments to the zoning code. Next slide. Please, thank you. And final slide for me, Madam Chair, and I swear we'll show some photos and quick renderings. This is just to show that the zoning code relief required for the project is minimal. We only need 3 citations. It's basically an as-of-right zoning project. The 2 very technical variances that we received were for street wall continuity, which is to be determined by the BPDA during Article 80 small project review, as well as front yard below grade due to the extreme grade change and topographical conditions that I did mention. And we also need a conditional use permit for the multifamily residential use in the community commercial subdistrict. We are at an edge condition. It's an oversized lot with a lot of unique topography. It's not really a suitable location or property for a commercial use. And so we would suggest that it is a good opportunity for conditional use permit here. So minimal zoning relief needed for the project under the current zoning and also consistent with that plan Mattapan, which I had mentioned at the beginning. Next slide, Madam Ambassador, and then Dan from Arrow Street will quickly go through and show you what I just laid out for you. Thank you. Dan?
Thank you, Nick, and members of the board. I'm Dan Mercadelli. I'm the architect and project manager from Arrow Street. I'll just give a brief overview of the project design and further explain the 3 areas of zoning relief Nick outlined earlier. First, as you can see on the screen from the plot plan, this is a uniquely shaped site and has a significant amount of grade change across it coming up from Blue Hill Ave, which is along the right of this plan. We've shaped the building to respect all the zoning setbacks and also to maintain the tree canopy that runs along the north side of the property, which is on the top of the plan on the screen. Next slide. So moving on to the plans, the ground floor is composed of the main residential lobby, bike room, and the fitness center, which are shown here in blue. As Nick mentioned, we relocated the entries to those spaces off the pocket park, which is on the top of the plan, accessed off Blue Hill Ave. So that's intended for both building residents as well as the surrounding community. The project also features a community anchor space, which is shown here in green on the corner of Blue Hill Ave and Colbert Street. We're looking forward to working with the community and the city to help program that space. The project includes new street trees along Blue Hill Ave and Colbert Street, as well as off-site improvements at the corner of the intersection, which is the number 5 on this plan. Next slide. So on the second level, you can see that we have our parking area, which, as Nick mentioned, is accessed off Colbert Street. Due to the steep slope of the site, that's actually 1 level above the main lobby space and is accessed from grade off Colbert Street. This contains 12 dedicated resident parking spaces as well as the loading area, which is number 3 on this plan. Next slide, please. So this is our typical residential level, which stacks from levels 3 and 4. As Nick mentioned, all affordable building, and this is our typical layout. Next slide, please. At the top level here, which is level 5, we have a small community garden space. In addition to providing exterior space for building residents, this also has benefits for the building massing, which brings down the scale of that building towards the residential buildings along Colbert Street, which we can illustrate in the next slide, please. Here's a building section along Colbert Street where you can see that the building steps at the community garden to create better alignment with the scale of the neighborhood buildings. The section also illustrates the requested relief at the ground level elevation, which is 82, to match the sidewalk along Blue Hill Ave. The average grade for the site is 86.6 due to that elevational change across the site. Next slide. So here's a rendered elevation of that same side of the building along Colbert Street, showing the massive variation in facade treatment. We're proposing a building-mounted photovoltaic facade, which, along with being an all-electric building and going for a passive house, will contribute to the sustainability of this project. Next slide. So next we just want to show a few renderings of the building. So here's the view at the corner of Blue Hill Ave and Culbert Street. The green material represented is the building mounted photovoltaic facade. The lower level is a masonry material. And at the corner, you can see the entrance to that community anchor space that I mentioned earlier. Next slide. So here's the view of the project from across Blue Hill Ave. In this view, you can see that we're trying to maintain the street wall established by the adjacent buildings that run along Blue Hill Ave. You can also see the small pocket park that we're creating as the entry to the project and sort of an amenity for the neighborhood. This is also the culmination of the tree canopy that comes out from Almont Park and kind of creates this green ribbon that spills out onto Blue Hill Ave. Next slide. And so last, we just want to show a close-up view of that pocket park space, which also shows areas dashed in on the facade that we imagine could be reserved for art or murals on the building facade. We're looking to work with the city and the community to help activate the space and make it welcoming for both the residents and neighbors. And next slide, please. Thank you all for your time. Myself and Nick are here for any questions that you guys may have.
Thank you. Is the project manager from BPDA available?
Yes.
Yes, can you?
That's me.
Thank you. Can you walk us through the community process?
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, Madam Chair. So on October 3rd of 2022, the proponent filed a small project review application with us for the proposed project. We did sponsor a virtual public meeting that was held on February 1st of 2023 via Zoom. The proponent had met with stakeholders in the neighborhood and immediately adjacent on Culbert Street throughout the review period in conjunction with that BPDA sponsored public meeting as well. Throughout the process, the proponent did address and did respond to specific concerns from the neighborhood by first reducing the gross square footage of the overall project, reducing the amount of units from 48 to 41 units, and adding an additional 500 square feet of open space to the project site. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Questions from the board?
Can you just elaborate on the use of the community anchor space and any intended rent or occupancy charge for that space?
Yes, Ms. Pignano, I think we're open to all options. I don't know, Scott Shaw from Lincoln Avenue might be able to answer that a little bit more from what they're thinking, but I think we're open to having that discussion as to what the use would be. Scott, do you want to elaborate maybe a little bit more on that?
Yeah, we truly want to work with the community and the city on activating that space. In terms of rent, we're not planning on charging rent to anyone for the use of that space, so we really want it to be community activated.
Thank you.
Okay. Other
Yes, I have two questions, Madam Chair.
Yes, sir.
One is, I know some of the concerns is about, traffic and parking. Mr. Shaw, can you speak at all to, will you be assigning spaces of those 12 spaces, or is it just going to be first come, first serve, where you'll have people looping in and out? Just trying to understand the mechanics around that. And then the second question is more broadly, has this already, and perhaps since it's already gone through BPDA, it already has Mayor's Office of Housing Support? Do you have financing awarded from them? Any other snapshot about that status? Thank you.
Sure. Yeah, in terms of parking, I think as Nick mentioned, we have 12 spaces there, so we are accounting for 30% parking ratio to our residents. We find in our affordable developments, there's a general average of parking needs of 25 to 30%. To the extent that there are additional spaces that would be not needed, we would look at master leasing spaces in underutilized lot in the immediate and adjacent area. In terms of first use, we do a lottery for those in need. Obviously, those with handicapped accessible needs would come first, and then a lottery for the remaining spaces. In terms of the city approval, we did submit application for CPA and NHT funds. We did get the mayor's certificate of expedited approval, and we have full support from the city from that context. Last thing, I'm sorry, funding. We are anticipating a one-stop pre-application, in the coming weeks with hoping to be able to submit the full one-stop application February 15th.
Does that address your questions, Mr. Aiken?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions from the board?
Madam Chair, I have two questions. So I thought I saw on the civil plan another driveway. Does that service the abutter, and is that on your property?
You want to have me answer that, Dan, for Ms. Wewell? I don't know if Madam Ambassador might want to go back to that plan just to illustrate that for Ms. Wewell. Dan, do you want to answer that?
Sure, yeah. So the proposed driveway is shown, right here. Entering the garage from Culpert Street, all the way to the left. That driveway is the abutter's driveway, which is on the applicant's property. We don't intend to change that, so we're kind of leaving that as is.
Okay, and my second question, so I saw in our materials that the levels of affordability are 30%, 60%, and 70% AMI, but I didn't see how that was dispersed amongst the bedrooms. I'm just curious, sort of the levels of affordability based on the bedroom mix.
Yeah, that's a good question, Ms. Wewell. So I believe that, Scott, you might be best to answer that from a bedroom perspective if we have that information, but I know that there will be up to 8 project-based voucher units at 30% AMI, with the rest of them being, I believe it's 60% AMI. I don't know where is the 70%, maybe it's in the board memo, Scott. I don't know if you want to answer that a little bit more detail.
Yeah, previously we were looking at doing some 70% workforce units, and we are not doing those anymore. So the project is affordable to residents at 60% below median income. We have voucher units, as Nick said. So we have 11 one-bedrooms, and we have 22 two-bedrooms and 8 three-bedrooms. So in terms of how the units are dispersed with the project-based voucher units, they're not, congregated on any particular floor in any particular unit. So they'll be dispersed equitably throughout the building and throughout the various floors. And as I said, so those vouchers are 60%, are 30% below median income for the resident, depending on what 30% of their income is, will dictate what they pay. And then this balance of the units are at 60% AMI.
Okay, and just to make sure, so somebody with 30% AMI or a voucher could lease a 3-bedroom, is that?
So we will certainly take anyone with a portable voucher in need of a unit, in addition to the project base that we'll have. So yes, there will be out of the 8, minimum of 2 and 1, a 1-bedroom, 2 and a 2-bedroom, 2 and a 3-bedroom, and we'll determine based on the wait list information we receive whether or not it should be more 3-bedrooms, more 2-bedrooms, and equitably disperse it according to the need that's in the community.
Okay, thank you.
Follow-up question very quickly, Madam Chair.
Yes.
Is the restriction in perpetuity?
Yes.
Okay. Great.
Okay, I think there's a raised hand, so let's go to public testimony.
Good. Can you guys hear me?
We sure can, Mr. James. I know you've been struggling.
Hey, how you doing? All right. So, good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Eric James of the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services. The applicant held a held a BPDA run process, BPDA run community meeting. So we did not host a community meeting from our office, but I know the BPDA did testify to how that went. The BPDA did approve this on September 14th at their board meeting. In terms of what our office did host with them, we did have that meetup that they talked about. The Colbert Street residents voiced concerns about the added congestion that the project would cause, along with the lack of parking that already exists in the area. They were also concerned about the additional congestion, that the additional congestion would lead to more crime in the area. And as Colbert is already used as a throughway, the cut in the Almont Park, they are concerned that this will increase the general usage of their street by non-residents. They are also concerned that again, with the parking situation, with the fact that I think it's low parking spaces, high number of units, they are concerned that the residents will end up parking on their street. So they would like to have a little bit more of a guarantee that their street would not be used as additional parking, or that the residents from this project would not be parking their additional cars in that street. In terms of the Greater Mattapan Neighborhood Council, they have stated opposition, stating the following. So the GMNC board unanimously support the opposition of the current design of the proposal of 1471 Blue Hill Ave by the residents of Colbert Street in Mattapan. Colbert Street is a dead-end short street. It has a total of 7 homes, which are either single or 2 families. The massing of a building that would have almost 100 residents on the corner at Blue Hill Avenue and Woodhaven Street. Over the years, residents have resisted repeated designs which continuously have garage exits directly out onto Colbert Street. Residents have applied for Colbert Street resident-only parking as well. So in this sense, Colbert Street is not resident-only parking at this time. So they would like to have, again, a little bit more of a guarantee that the lack of parking or the low parking in this development will not spill out onto their street. In terms of the support letters, the applicants did provide our office with 22 letters of support, which we sent over to you guys. And we do have 1 letter of opposition, which is the formal letter of opposition by the Greater Mattapan Neighborhood Council. And with that, thank you guys again. We are going to defer our judgment to the board. And thank you again. Please, yeah, that's it.
Thank you, Mr. James.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Caitlin Stapleton from Councilor Murphy's office. The site is currently vacant and underutilized, and it would deliver much-needed affordable housing with a focus on family-sized units. Again, a majority are 2 to 3 bedroom as a result of community feedback. The size of the building has also carefully been designed to fit zoning compliant height and setbacks. The council believes that this is a smart development in the midst of a housing crisis that is impacting working families in the city. So she would like to go on record in support. Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Jordan Frias here from Boston City Councilor Ricardo Arroyo's office. I'd like to offer our support for this project. Thank you.
James?
Members of the board, Paul Sullivan, City Council at Large, Michael Flaherty. Due to the fact that the project would deliver much needed affordable housing focused on family-sized housing, 2 and 3 bedroom units specifically, Council can recommend support.
Go ahead, Gene.
Good morning. My name is Gene Transtamar, and I'm a lifelong resident of Boston, representing as a principal with ATO Real Estate, but more importantly, I live across the street from this development, and as a result, I'm lending my support on record of this project. Thank you.
Thanks. Fatima?
Hi, good morning. My name is Fatima Al-Islam. I'm the chair for the Greater Mattapan Neighborhood Council. The residents who live on Colbert Street, they reached out and said that their submitted letter was not read as part of the record, that they had submitted to both the ZBA as well as to the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services. Their main objections have to do that it directly abuts also Alma Park, to which they receive significant parking from games that occur on both Saturdays and Sundays, as well as because of the commuter rail that is right next door. It should be noted that along Blue Hill Avenue, there's no fee parking, and therefore they receive a lot more additional traffic parking from outside of the immediate area for those who are riding the commuter rail. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll go to David and then Louis.
Hi everyone. My name is David Venter. I'm part of the multi-generational family who's lived here. My parents have lived here for over 50 years.
What address, where do you live, please?
8 Colbert Street.
Thank you, sir.
8 Colbert Street, which is diagonally right across from the parcel of land. Just to note, and I just want to state this, we have met several times with the developers and also the community. While it has been said over and over again that they have worked with us, that is not true. We've voiced our concerns. No one has ever once said that we don't want anything to go there. However, what is being proposed is going to seriously disrupt a multi-generational 7-house street, okay? and it's going to impact property values. It could impact foundational concerns of the slate that is already there. It's definitely going to cause not just foot traffic, and no one has mentioned, this is not a two-way street, okay? So every ambulance or fire truck that comes up the street usually has to either back in or back out. Every delivery truck that comes in, and I've sent pictures of that, usually has to back out. The garbage trucks usually have to back in, especially when there are two cars on each side of the street. No, we can't even come out of our driveways. In addition to that, there's been significant property damage where people turn into our driveways, and my gate specifically has been hit several times, in which I have to replace. Other people have had their lawns driven over. So this is just not necessarily a parking issue. It's a safety issue for emergency vehicles. As you know, Amazon trucks and all sorts of delivery trucks now.
Please wrap up, sir.
Right, has to be delivered. So what I'm saying is that this is going to significantly impact us. And as somebody who works from home, think about all of the noise and construction and everything that's going to be associated with this property.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
If there are other raised hands, can you please add new information?
Okay, yeah, Louis, go ahead. You can briefly tell us if you're in support or opposition.
Thank you. Yes, I'm a longtime resident of Boston, and I'm constantly in that neighborhood. And
Can you state your address?
Yeah, 30 Home Street, and I'm supportive of this project. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, you want me to keep going, Madam Chair?
How many more raised hands we have?
3.
Okay, please be quick, folks.
Okay, Tiffany and then Ingrid.
Hi, everyone. My name is Tiffany Bassel. I live at 12 Colbert Street. I've been here for 41 years. My mom has been here over 50 years. We've asked the developers for studies on traffic in the area. We've asked for parking studies. During snow emergencies, a lot of the residents that live nearby on Blue Hill Ave park on our street. Churches, Jubilees across the street. Another church, like we have so many churches in the vicinity that park on our street. There's hardly ever any parking on our street. There's a lot of crime in Almont Park and on Almont Street. And we've had people run down Colbert Street that have committed crimes into the park down our street. And we feel like these things are not being addressed and not being looked into. And we're not saying that we don't want something on the street, but it needs to not be this massive, and the parking situation needs to be sorted out better. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I just turn back to developer? I think it would be helpful if you could comment on the concerns on Colbert and clarify your curb cut situation and how the traffic will flow.
Yeah, Madam Chair, no, we did meet with these folks, and I think we tried to address their concerns as best as we could. We're understanding of them. We did meet multiple times, and so we didn't take that lightly whatsoever. I would say that, Blue Hill Ave, I think it was mentioned, it's a one-way street. It's not a one-way street, it's a dead-end street. But we've tried to address as much as we could. There's only 12 spaces, and we have our own loading and unloading, which should alleviate some of those turnaround concerns. Because of the Blue Hill Ave Transportation Action Plan and BPDA design review, we were told that Blue Hill Ave as a parking entry and drive aisle was not gonna work because of the plans for Blue Hill Ave. So that's the reasoning behind where the parking and the curb cut is for the project. We're not trying to be a part of the problem. We're trying to be a part of the solution with some of these other issues, which seem like they are existing issues on the street. If there's an opportunity for us and for the developer to be a part of that, for instance, from a crime perspective, having a non-vacant lot with eyes in the street and more activity is going to be helpful, we would suggest. We're happy to look at resident permit parking and how to support the neighbors through our process, and that has been something that we've worked with the Camille at the BPDA and Kenya Beeman as well. So we're open to having these suggestions, but we don't need a parking variance because it's an all affordable project. And so we've tried to balance the concerns that we heard from the neighborhood about traffic and parking with the concerns and the need for affordable housing. So we tried to create a balancing act, but we are understanding the comments and the concerns that we heard today and throughout the process. And that's why we made the changes we made to try and address them by removing as much activity off of Culbert Street and onto Blue Hill Ave from an entryway perspective, from the pocket park and things like that. But there are certain things because of the grade change and because of planning initiatives for this site and this immediate area that we just can't accommodate. And it's an Article 80 small project review, all affordable project. There's no requirement for a traffic study. We did make sure that we complied with the Blue Hill Ave Transportation Action Plan and to work with the city's transportation folks to make sure that we addressed as much as we could as part of the project. So, I think we're hoping to not make the perfect the enemy of the good here, or vice versa, whichever one you want to choose. But we did try to address these as best as we could as a development team. So thank you.
Other questions from the board? I can't see the board. Okay. Hearing none, can I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Stenbridge?
Yeah.
Ms. Wewell?
Yeah, so I just want to point out, I hear the concerns of the neighbors, but I think the public benefits here outweigh sort of the scale of the project. The affordable housing is at 60%, less than 60% AMI. There's community room, and also residential trip generation tends to be less than commercial. So I think this is a great use for the site, and I'm happy to see it, so I'll support it.
Ms. Panado?
Yes.
Mr. Collins?
Sorry, muted, yes.
Mr. Aiken?
Yes, I think it's an appropriate project and that it meets the needs for the required variances and conditional use permit.
I do hope the developer will work more closely with the Colbert Street residents and support them in their efforts for resident parking, but agree it's a good use of the space. With that, the chair also supports.
Madam Chair, I haven't
I'm
shared
sorry.
my vote.
I'm so sorry, Mr. Valencia.
Thank you. I agree with the comments. I support the project. The creation of 41 affordable units in perpetuity is something that is going to really help the community in Boston. So my vote is yes.
Okay, did I miss any other board members? I'm so sorry.
No worries.
Okay.
You, Mr. Resident, can anyone hear me?
Well, we're already in the middle of voting, and it sounds to me like you do live on Colbert, and we have heard from Colbert. So with that, I'm gonna also support the motion. Motion carries.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, board members, for your time. Thank you.
We'll jump ahead, since it's after 11 a.m., we'll jump ahead briefly to the hearings for scheduled at that time to ask if there are any requests for withdrawals or deferrals from the 11 a.m. time frame.
I have a raised hand here. Ellen?
Yes, no, I just want to comment when we get to the 7G Sunnyside.
Okay. Thanks.
If that means that we don't have any requests for withdrawals or deferrals from the 11 a.m. time frame, then we will go to case BOA 1485053 with the address of 7 to 7G Sunnyside Street, with the applicant and or their representative explain to the board.
Yes, good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. My name is Alfonso Sierra. I'm the applicant and architect. My business address is 523 Medford Street in Charlestown, and I'm working with Arlene Construction and also the owner, Pierre Benaldo Verdier, and he's been a resident of this property for 17 years. And his goal is to become the owner developer, and he wishes to keep one of the units and sell the 7 other units. This is a total of 8 townhouses that he's proposing. If you can go to the next slide, please. The existing site, as you can see from the lower site plan, it's a weird shape, sort of not exactly landlocked, but it's a different, larger lot. It's about 20,000 square foot, located off Sunnyside Road. One of the biggest concerns, we have met with ISD. We had some meetings with him and also with the Boston Fire Department. One of the biggest concerns to make this viable was whether we could have fire truck access to the site, and we do indeed have that. We did a fire truck study to make sure that that would comply, so it does work, and that's one of the reasons why we had to design the building in a way that it's set back closer to the back so that the fire truck could access. The building, can you move to the next slide, please? The next one too, I just want to go through the floor plans. Next one, please, next one. Yeah, so basically the first floor, if you can move up a little bit, the first floor is this is the second floor, so if you can move the slide up a little bit. The first floor is, we provide 2 parking spaces for the units, and the units are going to be 4 levels. So on the first floor, we'll have access to the units front and back, and then we have 2 parking spaces per unit for a total of 16 parking spaces that are away from the street. So there's not going to be any impact to the existing parking off-street, or on-street, I should say, sorry. Above the parking, we'll have the living, dining, and kitchen. And if you can move to the next slide, please. Then we have, on the third, we'll have a bedroom and bathroom. And then above that, on the fourth, we'll have a bedroom and a study. And we're also providing, in order to give back to the open space, we're providing balconies for all the units in the rear of the building, away from the car access. If you can go through all the different slides, it would show the side views, yeah, this is the front, and this is the rear where you have the balconies, and that's basically all I have. If anybody has any questions, concerns.
Okay, thank you. Questions from the board?
Can you address sort of the context on the street? From what I can see on Sunnyside, it's a mixture of like 2 and 3 bedroom, 2 and 3 unit houses, and this is a lot larger than anything on that street. So
That's
can you
true.
talk about why you've chosen such a dense development?
Well, I mean, the lot is a larger lot. It's sort of unique for the area. If you look at the first page, the cover page, it has a Google insert of Google Maps, so you can see that the lots are typically much smaller. This is an oversized lot. I mean, in any area of Boston, this would be a perfectly developed lot, in my opinion. It's close, as you can see here, close to 19,000 square feet. So it is a different size lot. I do agree. The context is not as dense as this building, but yeah, that's true.
Other questions from the board?
Madam Chair, I have a question.
Yes.
So you're essentially starting with a blank slate here with the lot. So why the variances for the side setbacks at less than 5 feet?
Because, I mean, in order to, the variances on the side setbacks, the lot is, as you can see, is sort of weird, so we don't really have a frontage that meets the required width, because you have a 22.4 frontage of Sunnyside. So, you know, in order to be able to access the units and to provide the 8 units to make the project viable or buildable, we had to stretch it as much as possible, so.
What are the size of each of the units?
The size, about 2,400 square feet.
Okay.
That's including the lower level parking, which has 2 parking spaces. So in essence, it's if you count, the garage or the 2 parking spaces is not livable space, but I'm counting that as 24. It's roughly per plate, it's about 600, and if you look at, you can see right there, 600 and average 647 square feet per plate. So.
Okay, thank you.
And we'll hear from the BPDA, Madam Chair, if Jeff Hampton is here.
Are you available, Mr. Hampton?
Yes, Madam Chair, members of the board. Thank you, Jeff Hampton, BPDA. We recommended denial of this petition. There was a similar petition a couple of years ago, back in 2021, that they also proposed 8 units, which the board denied. So we just think with new construction, as Ms. Wewell had brought up, if you're having new construction, you can make some of these setback requirements work. We feel that the number of units is too much, given that it's a 1-family district. To Ms. Panato's point, there are 2s and 3s in the neighborhood. However, we feel 8 units is excessive. We felt that way a couple of years ago when 8 units was proposed before this board, and we recommended denial at that time. So we're on the record as recommending denial for this project. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Can we have public testimony?
Yes, Madam Chair, members of the board, Connor Newman with the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services. At this time, the Mayor's Office would like to defer to the judgment of this board. Some background information on the community process. ONS hosted a community meeting, and the applicant went on to meet with the Factory Hill Neighborhood Group, as well as connecting with the Hyde Park Neighborhood Association. The Factory Hill Neighborhood Group sent a letter of opposition in, which the board should have access to, and I understand that the Hyde Park Neighborhood Association sent in a letter of non-support. I believe the concerns related to density and character of the neighborhood. With that, we'll defer to the board. Thank you.
Excuse me, I want to add that just what the BPDA mentioned, it wasn't 8 units, it was 12 units that was proposed originally, so just to, wanted to correct.
You can respond after we finish public testimony. Thank you.
And we have elected official offices before we get to the public. Okay, Juna, we can give testimony here?
Yes, you hear me? This?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, okay. This is a good project because we were applying for the 12 unit at the beginning in 2021. But so the concern of people has, we have plenty of city of Boston and metropolitan housing everywhere ask all the time about they have people in the need. People has a lot of great need. We don't do a project like that to sell. These are for affordable housing to helping people homeowner occupy. That I think is a good project. That means that will bring the value of the community value. So I think is if we look at an Hyde Park area, there is no.
And what is your address, sir? Can you put your address into the record for the record?
Yeah, I am here. The owner
of what? This project?
Yes.
Okay, then let's please move on.
Jim E.
Yes, Jim Elliott, 3 Franklin Street, this project. I just want to make a note that the original remarks about the neighborhood being 2 and 3 family, that's actually not correct. The island of houses that this project is on is largely single family. There are a few 2-family, and of note, there was a 2-family kind of shoved in over on Thompson Street. If you think of it as the island of Reservation Road, West Thompson Street, and Franklin Street, and Sunnyside. So abutting in the rear adjacent to this property. There were just two family jammed in about 10 years ago.
Are you speaking in support or opposition, sir?
My opposition is density. My opposition is also, I said in the written response, I don't know if you folks got it, the site elevation issues regarding the hill. This is a hillside. So in the neighborhood presentation, the developer did not address any of the issues regarding our need for retaining a wall on the uphill side of the lot, or address the issue of egress through this very narrow driveway. He says that they went over it with the fire department. I did not see any study. He said there was an engineering study. He presented no engineering study. I'm concerned about that presentation, being there isn't one, because it is a narrow driveway that is the sole access to this site. So,
all right. Can you please wrap up? Thank you. Any other raised hands?
Caller, just her feature, 364 1445. I felt like you might have heard from them earlier. Are you looking to give testimony on this proposal?
Good morning, Madam Chair. Craig Martin, Colchester Street. I utilize this neighborhood all during the summer for our Hyde Park community gardens up in the top, so we're very familiar with Sunnyside. Yes, this is a large lot, but much too small for this size of project. And I do want to clarify, earlier he was using balcony space as a substitute for open space. No, that's not. Article 69 does not allow in a single-family zone to substitute balcony space for the required open space. So they are well short of the required open space. I just want to clarify that he was incorrect, the architect, on that aspect. And I did hear him mention in their little presentation something about the need for affordable, but my sense is that there's no affordable units here. So I want to make sure that that's known on the record.
Okay, thank you, sir.
I'm opposed, and I opposed, and I thank you kindly for listening.
Thank you. And I believe there's an Ellen and Fred Scalise
Okay.
that had their hands raised.
Sure, go ahead. I sent a request to unmute you.
Yes, I am the secretary of the Factory Hill Neighborhood Association, and the Neighborhood Association is in opposition of this. Four stories is considerably higher than any home on this street and well above the zoned height limits. Sunnyside Street cannot handle the additional traffic. It's very narrow and often difficult to navigate. Many times only one car can pass. Emergency vehicles already have difficulty, and parking is difficult due to the school buses and the pickup at the Chandler School. It is way out of character with this neighborhood. This is a neighborhood of older single, two, and some three-family homes. This large apartment-like building is completely inconsistent with the neighborhood. The lot is insufficient to accommodate a building this size, and we do not feel that this is at all appropriate. We understand the need for housing, but we would like to see a proposal of something that is apropos to this neighborhood.
Thank you.
Thanks. No additional raised hands.
Does the applicant wish to comment briefly before we motion?
I think I'm all set. I just wanted to correct the previous comment by BPDA. It was 12 units, not 8 units, so, yeah.
Okay, got it. Thank you. With that, may I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to deny without prejudice and just strongly advise the proponent here to go back to the drawing board. That building doesn't work back there. You know, this is single families, 2 families, maximum 3 families. So, you know, if you're going to propose a multifamily, I would suggest that you do it multiple buildings to better match the neighborhood.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Stenbridge?
Sorry, no, can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Wewell?
Yes, and I agree with what Mr. Collins said. I think, and also to my point earlier, they're starting with, a blank slate. They could certainly make a project more compliant with the zoning here. Thank you.
Mr. Valencia?
Yes.
Ms. Panado?
Yes.
Mr. Collins?
Yes.
Mr. Akins?
Yes.
Chair also votes yes, motion carries. Thank you.
Finally, for the 9:30 hearing, we have case BOA 1498055 with the address of 11 Knox Street. Is the applicant and/or the representative present to explain to the board?
Yes, Mr. Secretary.
Please proceed.
Madam Chair, members of the board, my name is Kyle Smith of Cetera Law, a business address of 359 Newbury Street in Boston's Back Bay. We have a pre-existing three-family structure situated on a lot size of 864 square feet. There is effectively a unit on 4th floor, a self-contained unit on 3rd floor, and then the intent is to renovate the first unit, which is currently on floors 1 and 2. There is, prior to the current owner's ownership, basement level area, which doesn't have requisite head height for livable square footage. So the intent is to dig down by about 18 inches to recapture a little bit of head height, make that otherwise then legal, to expand the livable square footage of the structure by approximately 800 square feet. So the only cited violation we have is an FAR violation. We're currently non-conforming. We're making that non-conformity slightly worse by the additional 800 square feet of livable space. And then also erecting a deck off of the floor line of the first floor to the rear of the building. The only intended building envelope changes would be the removal of existing windows on the first floor to the rear in favor of full-length windows, which act as doors onto the referenced to-be-created decking. So again, the only cited violation that we have is an FAR violation. We do have a letter of non-opposition from the Bay Village Neighborhood Association. We've been in very close communications with our immediate abutters to which we share party walls.
Thank you. Questions from the board?
Can we hear from the BPDA?
Mr. Hampton?
Why do you only want to hear from me when we oppose something?
Because they like you to read it on the
I
record.
don't want to ask me questions when we're in support.
We can do that.
No, that's okay, that's fine, that's fine. I'm just sensing a pattern here, Ms. Wewell. Thank you, members. Madam Chair, members of the board. We are opposed to the basement addition and the excavation down. We're not opposed to the rear deck at all, but we believe that they can, we're just opposed to excavating, I forget what their attorneys said, but because it's in the G-code, going down is not something that we are in support of, and not extending the living space into the basement. Thank you.
That work for you, Ms. Wewell?
Yeah.
Any other questions? Any other questions from the board? Okay, hearing none, can I have public testimony?
Hi, yes. Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Kim Crucioli from the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services. Our office would like to defer to the board on this matter. We held an abutters meeting on September 19th where no opposition was shown from abutters, and they also went before the Bay Village Neighborhood Association and received a letter of non-opposition. Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Ana Calderon from Council President Flink's office. The councilor would like to go on record in support. Thank you.
Any other raised hands? Okay.
Madam Chair, if there are no other public commentary, may I just respond briefly?
Yes, please.
So again, we're trying to recapture 18 inches of head height. It is already pre-existing dug down area. We are not triggering any G-code applicability. That's been specifically reviewed by ISD in relation to elevations above, I think, mid-flood plain. So we've already been thoroughly through this with ISD, which they ultimately removed GCOT applicability and confirmed as such. We're also looking to, as far as the basement living, we're looking to have increased window well for emergency egress, which would then access the rear patio and then vertically to the deck. So we think that we've satisfied and been in conversation with ISD about the specific concerns related to digging down and reclaiming that approximately 1.5 feet of head height.
Thank you, and I see Mr. Simonelli.
Yes, Madam Chair, members of the board, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
So I just wanted to concur with the applicant's statements that we did work with the applicant and ISD to remove that GCOT violation, which wasn't properly cited.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Hearing none, may I have a motion?
I'll motion to approve with BPDA design review.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Stenbridge?
We don't need design review on this. This would be covered by historic landmarks anyway. So
Gonna keep you busy, Mr. Hampton.
I'm trying to find the undo.
All right, so you want us to amend that to approval?
Yeah, yes, please.
Okay, do you accept that, Mr. Collins?
I do.
Okay, and we had a second, so Mr. Stenbridge?
Yes.
Ms. Wewell?
Yes.
Mr. Valencia?
Yes.
Ms. Panado?
Yes.
Mr. Collins?
Yes.
Mr. Aiken?
Yes.
Chair also votes yes, motion carries. Good luck.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Next, we'll move on to the hearing scheduled for 11 a.m. First, we have case VOA 1487905 with the address of 51 Fairbank Street. Is the applicant and or their representative present to explain?
Yes, Mr. Stenbridge. Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. My name is George Moranci. I'm an attorney with the business address at 350 West Broadway in South Boston. I represent City Realty. Project architect is Eric Zackerson. This is an application to change the legal occupancy of the building at 51 Fairbank Street from a one-family dwelling to a three-family dwelling, extend the building in the rear and add 2 shed dormers, one on each side of the gable roof. The building is located in a 3F 4,000 three-family zoning subdistrict on a 4,300 square foot lot. Sheet XA1 of the plans shows the current floor plans, which consist of an open basement, a kitchen, living, and dining room on the first floor, along with an enclosed porch. The second floor contains 3 bedrooms and a sunroom, and the third floor, or attic level, currently has 2 bedrooms. In the renovated rendition, the basement would have a building washer and dryer, as well as building storage space. The first, second, and third floors would each become a single unit with additional living space in the rear, owing to the rear addition, which is approximately 27 feet wide and 11 feet deep. The plans currently being shown of the existing condition, and the proposed conditions should be on the next slide. Each unit would be approximately 1,100 square feet with 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. Sheet XA3 shows the current front and right elevations, and then the current rear and left elevations after that. The left of the proposed front elevation, there would be a new window addition and a new front door. The new dormers can be seen at the 3rd floor level on each side on a subsequent sheet. The right side of the building, or the plans will show a right elevation or side elevation showing the rear addition, as well as that new shed dormer. They're a little bit farther down on the plan sheets. These are current conditions being shown. As I mentioned, there is a proposed rear elevation in the back of the building. As to the zoning, there's a violation for insufficient usable open space for the 2 new units. In an off-street parking violation, although there are 3 proposed parking spaces for the 3 units. There's a violation cited for insufficient lot size for the additional 2 units, and cited violations for front and rear yard setbacks. These violations, though, are existing conditions. and the violations are triggered solely by the vertical extension caused by the dormers. Finally, there's a cited rear yard setback owing to the proposed rear addition. As can be evidenced on this slide, though, I would point out that the required rear yard setback here is 30 feet, and the proposed setback, even with the new addition, is just over 31 feet, which means that it is in fact compliant with respect to rear yard setback. With that, Madam Chair, I'll pause. I'll take any questions that members may have.
Thank you. Mr. Morency, any questions from the board?
I have a question, Madam Chair, in response to the BPDA's comments. Can you, Mr. Morency, speak about any mature trees or others that'll be removed by adding parking spaces to the rear lot there and expand that pervious paved area?
There's one tree in the left rear of the property, which would be the bottom right from this viewpoint, and that's where 3 proposed parking spaces are being shown. There's an area, though, to the left, as we're viewing this sheet, where the parking could be moved, which would result in no loss of that tree. So that's something that could be explored in design review. And I know the other issue mentioned in the BPDA recommendation was density and FAR. The resultant FAR here is 0.99, which is fairly low, particularly since what is allowed by code is 0.8. But as I say, we could, that tree may be impacted. I'm not even certain that it would be, but that can certainly be looked at in design review, given the amount of space that does exist in that rear area behind the building.
Thank you. May I have public testimony?
Yes, good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Frank Mendoza here, Alston Brighton Liaison, Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services. For the abutters meeting for 51 Fairbanks, we had one attendee, no address, concerned about parking. The applicant was able to answer all of their questions. The Brighton Alston Improvement Association received a presentation by this applicant. They are on, the zoning chair, Annabella Gomes, is on to testify as to their stance. For this proposal, we did not receive any letters of support or of opposition, and at this time, we'd like to defer to the judgment of the board. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, this is Laura McCrae from Councilor Braden's office. The council would like to go on record in support of this project. Thank you.
Any other elected official offices? Now we'll go to Peter. Go ahead.
Hey folks, Brighton resident. My property's driveway exits out onto Fairbanks Street. I just wanted to speak in support of the project. Happy to see some new condos coming into the neighborhood instead of just rentals.
Thank you.
What's your address?
It's 9 Oak Square Ave with an entrance. Our driveway is actually on Fairbanks.
Thanks.
Annabella?
Yeah.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Annabella Gomes, the Austin Improvement Association. We'd like to go on record in support of this project. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have no additional raised hands.
With that, may I have a motion?
Motion to approve with BPDA review.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Stenbridge?
Yes.
Ms. Wewell?
Yes.
Mr. Valencia?
Yes.
Ms. Panado?
Yes.
Mr. Collins?
Yes.
Mr. Aiken?
Yes.
Chair also votes yes, motion carries. Good luck.
Thank you.
Since we've gone past the 11:30 hour, we'll ask at this point for the rediscussion portion if there are any requests for withdrawals or deferrals from that time frame.
Yes, Mr. Stenbridge, 10 Thompson Square, please.
So that would be case BOA 1304433 with the address of 10 Thompson Square. Would you care to explain, Mr. Ransom?
Yes, my name is George Morency. I'm an attorney with the business address of 350 West Broadway in South Boston. Madam Chair, members, we're requesting a second deferral on this matter. This is a proposal for a new 4-story building with 12 dwelling units and ground floor commercial space. We've been working with both the Charlestown Neighborhood Council and the Charlestown Preservation Society And there are several concerns from both groups that we are trying to address. We would like to take the time to continue to work with the community and hopefully arrive at a project that has considerable support. Given the stage that we're in and given the upcoming holidays, I think it would be wise to request, if available, a February date.
Okay, Javier?
I apologize, Attorney Moranci. Did you say February?
He did.
Yes, I think that would be wise given the fact we're coming up on the holidays and we're meeting with two groups.
Right now, I don't have that list in front of me. I think the board's still confirming for the 2024 calendar for hearing dates. We can put on the docket for December 12th, and by then we'll have that confirmation for hearing dates by December.
Understood. So that's fine. We'll take the 12th. If we happen to conclude community process, by then it can proceed. If we can't, hopefully it won't be held against us seeking a third deferral, since, in fact, we did look for the later date today.
Yes, yes.
Okay, well, with that, may I have a motion?
Motion to defer hearing to December 12th?
Is there a second? Mr. Stenbridge?
Yes.
Ms. Wewell?
Yes.
Mr. Valencia?
Yes.
Ms. Panado?
Yes.
Mr. Collins?
Yes.
Mr. Aiken?
Yes.
Chair also votes yes, motion carries. See you then.
Thank you.
Any further requests for withdrawals or deferrals from the 11:30 pre-discussion? With that, then, we move back to the 11 a.m. hearings, and we will go through case BOA 146-1380 with the address of 931 Hyde Park Avenue. Is the applicant and or their representative present?
Can you raise your hand if you're on the call? Russell Forsberg or yes? Oh, okay. Robert, sending a request to unmute you. Are you on for this proposal?
Can you hear us now? Can you hear us now?
Yeah.
Okay.
They can't see us. We try to do the bar block.
Okay. Madam Chairman, members of the board, my name is Russ Forsberg. I am representing the Dorchester Realty LLC, the owners of 931 Hyde Park Avenue. Along with me is Robert Susi, who is the representative for Dorchester Realty LLC, as well as Owen Wiggins of Gourmet Catering. To provide the board with a brief history of the property for their consideration. This property at 931 Hyde Park Avenue was in fact a matter before the board back in 2004, at which time the Sereno Pasta Factory was granted permission to expand the existing building to what is presently there today. This company has in fact gone out of business on or around 2018, and Dorchester Realty LLC has been seeking an appropriate tenant to take its place, which they found in the form of the Gourmet Catering establishment. We are here today seeking relief for a number of uses which correspond to the operations of Gourmet Catering, based upon the fact that the site that we are proposing to occupy is in what they refer to as a split zone, both local industrial as well as 2F5000. Bless you.
Thank you.
There are no proposed physical changes to the building whatsoever in terms of what we are seeking before the board. The building will remain in its present configuration and size, so there'll be no physical alterations to it. There will be some minor interior alterations necessary to afford Gourmet Catering the facilities and equipment necessary to conduct their business. We have gone through the public process of both an abutters meeting as well as a meeting before the Hyde Park Neighborhood Association, at which time we received a favorable recommendation for our proposal. If the board would care to hear further about the selection process by which Dorchester Realty came in to collect gourmet catering, or from gourmet catering themselves as to the nature of their business, I would be happy to allow them to speak to you at this time. So I will defer to the pleasure of the board.
Thank you, sir. Any questions from the board? Okay, hearing none, I'm going to ask for public testimony.
Yes, Madam Chair, members of the board, Connor Newman with the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services. At this time, the Mayor's Office would like to defer to the judgment of this board. As you heard from the applicant, a butters meeting was hosted by our office, and the applicant went on to meet with the local civic association. We're unaware of any specific current concerns at this time. I don't have a lot of information due to personnel changes, but I believe you'll hear further from the civic association. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Jordan here from Councilor Ricardo Arroyo's office. I would like to go on record in support. Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chair. For Keaton from Councilor Murphy's office. The applicant are longtime residents of the area who have always given back to the community, and they have worked with the community to gain support for gourmet catering, and because of this, the councilor would like to go on record in support. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was just Caitlin. Okay, I think we're all set with raised hands. Thank you.
Great, thank you. May I have a motion?
I make a motion to approve.
Is there a second? Mr. Stenbridge?
Yes.
Ms. Wewell?
Yes.
Mr. Valencia?
Yes.
Ms. Panado?
Yes.
Mr. Collins?
Yes.
Mr. Aiken?
Yes.
Chair also votes yes, motion carries. Good luck.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman and members of the board. Thank you.
Next, we have case BOA 1484059 with the address of 993 to 997 Hyde Park Avenue. Is the applicant and or their representative present to explain to the board?
Hi, Juan, if you're on, or your applicant, can you raise your hand?
Yeah, we move along and come back to them?
Yes, Madam Chair, this is Javier.
Yes,
We can do a
please.
second call on this.
I'm sorry?
We can do a
Yep,
second call
yes.
on this again. Yep.
Okay, thank you. Yes, keep going.
With that, we'll move on to case BOA 1462138 with the address of 558 Park Street. Is the applicant and or their representative present?
Yes, Mr. Stenbridge. Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. My name is George Moranci. I'm an attorney with the business address of 350 West Broadway in South Boston. This is an application to renovate the existing building at 558 Park Street in Dorchester and change its legal occupancy from a single family to a three-family dwelling with 3 parking spaces to the rear of the building. The building is located in a 3F 6003 family zoning subdistrict, but will require certain zoning relief owing to dimensional alterations. Being proposed is a very small rear addition of approximately 100 square feet to square off the back of the building, along with a vertical extension to square off the 3rd floor within the existing building footprint. The height of the building is not changing and will remain at 34 feet 7 inches. The basement of the building will remain an unfinished basement with no living space. There will be a storage room and a common laundry for the residents. The building currently has 6 bedrooms owing to the way that it's laid out. The bedroom count in the proposed 3-family dwelling will not change, as each unit would have 2 bedrooms. Currently, the 1st floor consists of a kitchen, living room, and bedroom, and an enclosed front porch that will be changed to an 830 square foot Unit 1, containing a kitchen, living room, dining room, and 2 bedrooms with the same enclosed front porch. 2nd floor of the building currently has 4 bedrooms. This will be changed to an 847 square foot Unit 2 with kitchen, living room, dining room, and 2 bedrooms. The 3rd floor is currently attic space, but occupied attic space with 2 bedrooms and some building storage. This level would be built out to gain additional square footage and would be transformed into a new 847 square foot unit again with kitchen, living room, dining room, and 2 bedrooms. In the rear of the building, there would be a new rear porch to provide a secondary means of egress from all units. There would be 3 parking spaces in the rear. With respect to the zoning violation cited, there is a cited refusal for extension of a non-conforming use that is erroneous. Since both the existing single-family use and the proposed 3-family use are allowed by zoning. It is in fact a 3F, 3-family zoning sub-district. There are cited violations for insufficient lot width and frontage, which puzzles me as to why this was cited for an existing building, since obviously the lot is not being created and the lot width and frontage are not changing, and this is not new construction. Typically, it is a violation that would be cited only on new construction. There's obviously nothing that can be done about the width of the lot, and these violations, again, I contend, probably should not have been listed. There's a violation for excessive floor area ratio. This is attributable to the fact that the attic level would be turned into a full story, which of course adds square footage to the building. And there's also that very small 100 square foot addition on the ground floor to square off the building. There's a cited height violation, but one that is not caused by the overall height of the building, which will remain at 34 feet 7 inches. But because of the conversion, the current half story at the attic level will become a full story, and the maximum height in this sub-district is 35 feet 2.5 stories, and this becomes a 3-story building. Finally, there is a cited violation of the side yard setback. 10 feet is required on each side of the building. The right side of the existing building has a side setback of 5 feet 2 inches in the area of that very small proposed addition, which is shaded and listed in blue on the plan in front of you. That very small addition being filled in there, which is approximately 15 feet by 10 feet, that creates the side yard setback violation on that right side of the building only. With that, I'll pause and take any questions that members may have.
Thank you, Mr. Moranci. Questions from the board? Hearing none, I'm going to ask for public testimony.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Ashley Williams from the Office of Neighborhood Services. Our office did hold an abutters meeting in May of this year, with no attendees present that day. The project also went in front of the West Washington Neighborhood Association. Our office did not receive any concerns or letters in opposition on the project. With that, we defer to the board. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have no institutional raised hand. Sorry about that. No, we're waiting here for somebody else. Thank you.
Okay, with that, may I have a motion?
I'll make a motion for approval with BPDA design review with attention to building design and screening and buffering of parking and to reduce impermeable area.
Second.
Mr. Stenbridge. Mr.
Yes.
Stenbridge? Thank you. Ms. Wheeler?
Yes.
Mr. Valencia?
Yes.
Ms. Panado?
Yes.
Mr. Collins?
Yes.
Mr. Aiken?
Yes.
Chair also votes yes. Motion carries. Good luck.
Thank you.
Next, we have case BOA 152-1709. The address of 14 Floyd Street. Is the applicant and or their representative present to explain?
Two raised hands here. Harry, Benjamin? Is either one of you on for this proposal? Daisy?
Oh,
Sending a request to unmute you
This is
guys.
Benjamin Lee. I'm the architect representing the owner, Mrs. Stacy Barbosa.
Great. Please proceed.
Thank you. Good morning, Madam Chair, zoning board members. My name is Benjamin Lee. I'm a principal of Bentley Architects, 121 Briar Lane, Westwood, Mass. Here to represent owners Mrs. Stacy Barbosa and also present 14 Floyd Street. 1440 Street is currently a vacant lot off Blue Hill Avenue. It is zoned in 3F5000. We are proposing to have a new 3-family dwelling with sufficient parking. There are the public transits around the corner, and the use and the number of family allowed is within the 3F5000 zone regulation. And as you can see on the side, there is the proposed building with the 3 parking at the back. We are going to keep the mature maple tree up in the front corner towards Floyd Street, and the drive and the parking area is going to be permeable paving. And next slide, please. I can go through the interior of the layout. The layout is very compact and very functional in terms of the repeats from first floor, second floor to third floor with 2 means of egress from front to the back. The layout, they're all similar in terms of the front is the kitchen, dining and living, and towards the rear are the 3 bedrooms, and each of the units will have 1.5 baths. And we are proposing to have a flat roof, which are similar to one of the buildings along the Floyd Street. So along Floyd Street, they are similar in terms of fabric and building structure in 2-family and 3 families. And the exterior materials that we're proposing going to be fiber cement, upward siding and panel, which is also in line with the neighborhood fabric as well. There's in terms of zoning violation, there's several of them. The first one is the parking screening and buffering, which we are prepared to work or alter the site plan to allow that. And then the next one is the floor area ratio, which is currently is 0.97, and which is allowed as 0.8. And then there is the usable open space, additional lot area, side insufficient area, or side setbacks, and the minimal lot insufficient. So those are the violations that we are seeking relief on. And with that, I'm going to conclude this presentation and answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. Any questions from the board? Hearing none, may I have public testimony?
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Ashley Combs again from the Office of Neighborhood Services. Our office did hold an abutters meeting in May. Again, no attendees present of that meeting. The project did go before the Woodrow Ave Association, which is some comments on the lot size, but our office did not receive any letters of opposition or concerns directed to the project. With that, we defer judgment to this board. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other raised hands for this proposal? Harry, are you looking to give testimony here?
I am, sorry, that's why I raised my hand too early the first time, I apologize.
No worries. Yep, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Harry Thompson, part of Franklin Field Neighborhood Association, and also a member of WANA, which is the Woodrow Ave Neighborhood Association member. I've met and heard the presentation twice, and at this present time, Franklin Field South is opposed to the as presented for the various zoning violations. I can't speak for WANA, but they weren't in support of the proposal.
Thank you. I have no additional raised hands. Thank you.
Okay. Any other follow-up questions from the board? Hearing none, may I have a motion?
Motion to approve with BPDA design review.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Stenbridge?
Yes.
Ms. Wewell?
Yes.
Mr. Valencia?
Yes.
Ms. Panado?
Yes.
Mr. Collins?
Yes.
Mr. Aiken?
Yes.
Chair also votes yes, motion carries.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Next, we have case BOA 1428422 with the address of 551 East 7th Street. Is the applicant and or their representative present to explain to the board?
Yes, Mr. Stenbridge.
Go ahead.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. My name is George Morency. I'm an attorney with the business address at 350 West Broadway in South Boston. Madam Chair, I'm sorry I didn't do this when deferrals were called, but I was just conferring with my client who has been reviewing the recommendation of BPDA. In light of those concerns, what he would like to do is have another look at these plans. That being the case, I'd like to request a deferral on this matter.
What timeline are you looking at, sir?
I think whatever comes up in due course, Madam Chair.
Okay, Javier.
Madam Chair, it could be December 5th, if that works for the applicant.
Mr. Morency?
Yes, that should be adequate. Thank you.
Okay, may I have a motion?
Motion to defer till December 5th.
Second, please.
Yes, second.
Mr. Stenbridge?
Yes.
Ms. Wheelo?
Yes.
Mr. Valencia?
Yes.
Ms. Panado?
Yes.
Mr. Collins? Mr. Collins, you're on mute.
Sorry, muted again, yes.
Mr. Aiken?
Yes.
Chair also votes yes, motion carries. See you then.
Thank you.
Next, we have case BOA 1448377 with the address of 44 Mystic Street. Is the applicant and or their representative present to explain to the board?
Yes, hello, my name is Timothy Sheehan. I'm the architect. I'm at 9 Wall Street in Charlestown. The project we have in front of the board today is an addition to a single-family owner-occupied residence on Mystic Street in Charlestown. What we would like to do is put an extension off the back, just basically make the kitchen bigger. That would be 8 feet off the house and the full width of the house, just slightly under 20 feet. We also have an existing basement. We'd like to make some habitable area down there as well. As existing now, we have 7 foot 6.5 inches, which is great. We have 2 good windows in the front, as all the houses on Mystic Street do on that side. So we'd like to put in a bonus family room, move the washer dryer downstairs and give them a 3/4 bath. Doing this will cause 3 violations. We're reducing the open space. We'll have a rear yard. There's a 15-foot rear setback now. We'll be down to 13.6. And we're going to go, currently now we are, the FAR meets requirements. We're going to go over to about 2.3. So max is 2232 on that lot, and we'll end up at 2634. And we had a not attended neighborhood meeting 2 months ago. Nobody really showed up, but we went through the process. And that's it, basically, just a small addition off the back and some more habitable area in a basement with already good ceiling height.
Okay, thank you. Questions from the board?
Richard Sherman.
Okay, can we have public testimony? I see Mr. Breen trying to speak.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Sean Breen with the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services. An abutters meeting was held for 44 Mystic on September 19th. Since that time, this office has received 1 letter in support and none in opposition. With that, we defer our judgment to the board.
Thank you.
No raised hands at the moment. Any other elected official offices? We're all set.
Okay.
Can we hear from the BPDA on this one?
I was waiting for that one. Mr. Hampton.
Hoping you weren't going to ask for that.
You should just weigh in when you know.
I know. And this is one of those crazy ones where because they created some of the zoning violations, this is why we're opposed, right? Because they increased it. I know they're minor, Mr. Sheen, and it's, you're creating the FAR violation, you're creating the rear yard violation. That's why we're opposed, not because of the extension of a kitchen.
I understood. Does that address your question, Ms. Panado?
Yes, I mean, I do feel like they should better align with the other houses on that street.
Mr. Sheehan, do you feel there's any opportunity to address these issues?
Well, I mean, the property uphill to the right of us, looking from the back, is already out 20 feet, is already out 15 feet past us. The house on the left, the downhill side on the left, looking at the elevation, would be 8 feet past them. I don't know how to address that, without doing the addition.
So does your addition extend past the 15 feet addition that you mentioned from your neighbor?
No, if you look on Google Earth, there's a house, it'd be 42, that runs, it's probably 10 feet, but like, you can, if you want to open up the site plan.
Yeah, there is one, but I would say the bulk of that street, the additions, they have not done similar additions. But yes, there is one example on that.
Yeah, if you look up the street, I'd say 7 or 8 houses have L's. I've designed 4 of them. I know 5 or 6 of them already have L's on them. So it's not an unusual situation on both sides of Mystic Street. And usually the L's go about 15 or 20 feet. We're just trying to go 8 feet.
Any other questions from the board?
I do have one, Mr. Sheehan, can you speak at all to sort of the Pearl Street houses? Like, how does this relate to the depth of those houses and those lot sizes and the relationship to the rear yard setbacks, et cetera?
Yeah, very similar density. The Pearl Street side, the dimensions are the same from the property line to the houses. You don't see it in the plan, but we're looking at a retaining wall. Pearl Street's about 15 feet higher than our lot at this point. So, Pearl Street's at the second floor level of this house. So I lived on Pearl Street for years. Most of that, I'd say 30% of the houses on Pearl Street on that south side also have L additions, either original or later put on. And most of them are long and narrow, with many 0 lot setbacks.
Thank you.
So we're trying to save as much open space for the family, so they, so they still have some open space.
Thank you, Mr. Sheehan. With that, may I have a motion?
Motion to approve with BPDA review.
Is there a second? Okay, Mr. Stenbridge.
Yes.
Ms. Wewell.
Yes.
Mr. Valencia.
Yes.
Ms. Panado.
No.
Mr. Collins.
Yes.
Mr. Aiken.
Yes.
Chair also votes yes, motion carries.
Thank you.
So let's take a 15-minute break and reconvene.
Madam Chair, before
yes.
we do take a break, I think we do have that second call for.
Oh, right, I'm sorry. Hyde Park, yes.
Yeah.
Hyde Park. Apologies.
So again, we will request for case BOA 1484059 with the address of 993 997 Hyde Park Avenue. If the applicant and or their representative is present to explain to the board.
Sandy raised hands.
Madam Chair, I'd recommend just to deny without prejudice at this point.
May I have a motion?
Motion to deny without prejudice.
Yeah, second. Mr. Stenbridge.
Yes.
Ms. Wewell.
Yes.
Mr. Valencia.
Yes.
Ms. Panado.
Yes.
Mr. Collins.
Yes.
Mr. Aiken.
Yes.
Chair also votes yes, motion carries. See you all in 15.